The Alpha King fell in love with the cleaning maid, not knowing she was the true royal heir. Prologue. The baby's first cry was muffled against Iris's shoulder while glass shattered somewhere above. "She has the mark," Iris whispered, her voice shaking. "She's legitimate. She's condemned," Queen Lisa interrupted, staring at her newborn daughter with eyes that held love and devastation in equal measure. "Look at her hair." Iris looked. Copper-red curls, soft as silk, bright as flame, beautiful, fatal. "They'll never accept her," Lisa said. "Mark or no mark, legitimate blood or not, they'll see fire and call it curse." Footsteps thundered closer, shouting, breaking, ending. "Take her," Lisa commanded, pressing her daughter into Iris's arms. "Hide her. Wait for the sign." "What sign?" Iris demanded. "You'll know." Lisa kissed her daughter's forehead one final time. "When fire recognizes fire, when two flames meet, you'll know." Her name? Dalila. The queen was already moving toward the door, toward whatever waited above. Tell her she was loved enough to be let go. Then she was gone, and Iris stood alone with a baby who had a queen's blood and a servant's future, wondering what prophecy could possibly save a princess the world would only ever see as cursed. 22 years later, somewhere in the Southern Territories, an Alpha King with copper-gold hair woke from dreams of fire and destiny, his wolf restless with certainty about someone waiting to be found. And in the Northern Kingdom, a servant with red hair prepared for another day of being invisible. Neither knew that destiny had finally grown impatient. Neither knew that ancient prophecies didn't wait politely. Neither knew that when two flames finally met, the entire kingdom would burn. Not with destruction, with transformation. If you love intense stories about wolves, with destiny and twists and turns, subscribe to the channel now. We post videos every day, so subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any episodes. How about we get to know each other better? I'm Maggie Reed, author of the stories, and you. Comment below with your name and which city you're watching from. Chapter 1. The Grand Hall of the Northern Kingdom's castle felt like a cage made of marble in judgment, and Dalila had never felt quite so exposed while trying desperately to be invisible. She stood in a line with 30 other servants for the annual presentation of service, a ceremony where King Aldrich and Queen Elena publicly acknowledged the castle staff before assembled nobility. 3 hours of standing perfectly still while nobles whispered about the girl with fire-colored hair. "Stop fidgeting, or I'll have you scrubbing chamber pots until you're 40, a warm voice whispered behind her. Iris, the woman who'd raised her since birth, who'd claimed Dalila as her own daughter 22 years ago to protect a secret that could get them both executed. The head of Castle Laundry, 50-something with graying brown hair and an inexhaustible supply of inappropriate commentary that somehow never got her dismissed. "I'm not fidgeting," Dalila whispered back. "I'm strategically redistributing my weight. That's just fidgeting with fancy words," Iris said. "Also, your hair is escaping. 3 curls on the left. You look like you're being attacked by friendly copper snakes." Dalila's copper-red curls refused all containment, no matter how severely she tried to bind them. They had strong opinions about freedom. "The overseer will notice," Dalila hissed. "The overseer notices everything and enjoys nothing," Iris said cheerfully. "It's her special talent." "Iris, stop chattering." Overseer Marlena's sharp voice cut through the hall. "Dalila, fix your hair. You look disgraceful. We could perform this ceremony in our sleep while juggling chickens," Iris muttered. Despite her nervousness, Dalila almost smiled. "Stand straighter, fire curse," Marlena added, her voice carrying to nearby nobles who turned to stare. "Try not to shame the entire staff." The smile died instantly. Around them, 200 nobles watched in formal attire, and every single one looked exactly like Northern Kingdom nobility was supposed to look. Pale skin like winter snow, hair in shades of blonde from white gold to honey, cold, refined features. The Northern Kingdom had very specific ideas about royal appearance. Pale blonde hair and porcelain skin meant purity, order, stability. It meant your bloodline had remained true to the kingdom's founding families. This wasn't just preferred. It was considered sacred proof of legitimate heritage. Red hair meant the opposite. It meant chaos had touched your bloodline, fire and instability. The old stories said red-haired children brought change and disruption, that they'd burn through tradition like wildfire. More importantly, red hair meant that even if you had legitimate royal blood, even if you carried the ancient mark of true lineage, the nobility would never accept you. They'd claim the red hair proved contamination, unworthiness. They'd exile or eliminate you rather than allow fire-colored chaos near the throne, which was exactly why Dalila's birth mother, Queen Lysa, had made an impossible choice 22 years ago during the Blood Moon Rebellion. The queen had been in Iris's rooms when the rebellion came, having just given birth in secret to a fourth child, a daughter with the royal mark blazing on her tiny shoulder blade, proof of legitimate descent from the ancient northern line. But the baby had copper-red hair. Queen Lysa had understood immediately what that meant. The mark proved legitimacy, but the red hair meant no noble would ever accept her daughter as heir. They'd see the fire-colored hair and claim contamination, chaos, unworthiness. They'd exile the child at best, eliminate her at worst. So the queen had given her newborn daughter to Iris, made her dearest friend promise to raise the baby as her own, to hide the mark, to keep the secret. Then she'd return to her chambers to face the rebellion, trusting Iris would protect what she couldn't. Iris had kept that promise for 22 years, had raised Dalila as her own, teaching her to hide the mark, to stay invisible, to survive, had loved her fiercely as both daughter of her heart and sacred trust from her dearest friend. "I see they brought out the cursed one," Lord Brennan's voice carried across the hall. Young, wealthy, cruel, red hair like hellfire. My grandmother said the old prophecy warned about fire-haired children bringing chaos and destruction. The prophecy also said fire-haired children would save the kingdom, Iris muttered. But people only remember the scary parts. Several nobles laughed. Lady Ashworth added sweetly, "So progressive, allowing cursed blood to serve in the royal household. My mother would have sent her to the outer territories." "Your mother sounds delightful," Iris whispered. "I bet she's fun at parties, by which I mean she sucks joy from rooms just by entering." Dalila tried not to laugh at exactly the wrong moment. Queen Elena rose from her throne, and the hall fell silent. She was beautiful exactly how northern royalty should be. Hair like spun gold, almost white. Skin like porcelain. Everything Dalila would never be. Even though beneath her servant's clothing, she carried the mark that proved she was the rightful heir. "We gather today to honor those who maintain our household," Queen Elena began. "Each person contributes to the kingdom's prosperity through dedicated service." The ceremony continued with acknowledgements. The head cook received applause. The stablemaster was recognized. Iris accepted acknowledgement for 25 years of laundry service with a curtsy that was technically perfect, but somehow still looked sarcastic. 25 years removing wine stains from noble clothing, Iris whispered. "I deserve a medal." Dalila wasn't acknowledged. She never was. Being invisible was safer when you carried secrets that could get you eliminated. Then King Aldrich stood and made an announcement that changed everything. "We welcome today our honored guest. Our alliance with the Southern Wolf Territories has brought prosperity and peace. Today we formally receive their Alpha King." "More nobility," Iris muttered. "Wonderful." The massive doors opened, and the man who entered moved like confidence in human form. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing traveling clothes instead of formal regalia, dark leather and crimson wool. His presence filled the space with natural authority that didn't need crowns to prove itself. And his hair was copper gold, dark red catching the afternoon light. Hair exactly like Dalila's. "Well," Iris breathed. "That's interesting." "Is that?" Dalila whispered. "That's an Alpha King with fire-colored hair," Iris confirmed, delighted. "Who apparently doesn't care about Northern Kingdom beauty standards." His amber honey eyes swept across the hall and stopped deliberately on the servant line. On Dalila. Her breath caught. Beneath her sleeve, the mark that had been dormant for 22 years suddenly pulsed with warmth. King Kieran Ashford of the Southern Wolf Territories, the herald announced. Alpha King, Lord of the Moonwood Packs, Keeper of the Old Ways, First of the Fire-Blessed Line. Fire-Blessed Line, Iris repeated. Not cursed. Blessed. Imagine that. That can't be real, Dalila whispered. He's standing right there looking magnificent, Iris said. Also, he's still looking at you. Lord Brennan's cruelty was forgotten as nobles focused on the Alpha King. Kieran approached the throne and bowed, respectful, but not subservient. King Aldrich, Queen Elena, thank you for your welcome. I apologize for arriving during your ceremony. My coordinator assured me the timing would be perfect, which apparently means awkward but entertaining, in his understanding of scheduling. Surprised laughter rippled through the nobles. He has a sense of humor, Iris whispered. I like him. The ceremony concluded. Queen Elena dismissed the assembly. Nobles filtered toward the reception hall. Servants were instructed to return to work. Dalila turned to escape with Iris when a voice stopped her. You there, the girl with red hair. She froze, turned, found King Kieran standing close enough that she could see gold flecks in his amber eyes. Beside her, Iris made a sound of suppressed glee. Every servant stopped moving. Overseer Marlena looked faint. Nobles stared in scandalized fascination. Your Majesty, Dalila managed, curtsying. How may I serve you? What's your name? Kieran asked gently. Dalila, Your Majesty, and this is Iris, my mother. Delighted, Iris said, curtsying with perfect sarcasm. Lovely ceremony. Very ceremonial. Kieran's mouth twitched. I'm completely lost in this castle. Would you show me to the guest quarters? Silence fell. Oh, this is about to be fun, Iris muttered. Of course, Your Majesty, Dalila said. We'd be honored. As they left with an Alpha King following them, Dalila felt the mark pulse with impossible warmth. Her birth mother's dying words echoed, When two flames meet, the kingdom's true heir will rise. She really hoped Queen Lisa hadn't meant this, but she was terribly afraid that she had. Chapter 2. The corridors leading to the guest wing felt approximately 3 times longer than usual, and Dalila was acutely aware that an Alpha King with copper gold hair matching hers was walking directly behind them, while half the castle probably watched from windows. So, Iris said cheerfully, breaking the awkward silence with the subtlety of someone throwing rocks at a hornet's nest. Alpha King, that's quite an impressive title. Do you get a special hat for that? Or is the regular crown sufficient? Dalila made a strangled sound that might have been horror or possibly a suppressed laugh. Iris, she hissed. What? I'm making conversation. It's called being hospitable. Behind them, Kieran made a sound that was definitely amusement. No special hat, unfortunately. Just the regular crown, which I try to avoid wearing when possible because it's remarkably heavy and gives me headaches. See? Iris said to Dalila. He's practical. I approve. Then to Kieran. The guest wing is just ahead. Fair warning. It's very fancy. Possibly too fancy. Someone clearly decided that important visitors need 17 pillows per bed and enough gold leaf to fund a small army. Iris! Dalila's mortification was reaching new heights. I'm providing useful information, Iris said innocently. He should know what he's getting into. The bathtub is large enough to swim in. I'm not exaggerating. You could do actual swimming strokes. The Southern Territories prefer functional comfort over excessive decoration, Kieran said, sounding genuinely amused. But I appreciate the warning about the swimming-capable bathtub. They reached the guest wing, a series of elaborately decorated rooms that screamed, We're trying very hard to impress you. Dalila opened the door to the finest suite, where afternoon sunlight streamed through tall windows overlooking manicured gardens. This is your room, Your Majesty, Dalila said, trying for professional dignity while her mother commented on bathtub dimensions. Your belongings should arrive shortly. If you need anything, there's a bell cord. Why do they call you Fire Curse? Kieran interrupted gently. The question landed like a stone in still water. Dalilah's hand went automatically to her hair. Because red hair means cursed blood in the north. Fire-colored hair brings chaos and instability. It's just how things are here. It's how people with limited imagination decided things should be, Kieran corrected. There's a difference. He's not wrong, Iris muttered. You don't understand, Dalila said carefully. In the north, bloodlines and appearance matter. Purity matters. Tradition matters. Red hair is a sign that something went wrong in your family line. I have red hair, Kieran said, gesturing to his copper-gold locks. Same color as yours. Does that mean my bloodline is cursed? You're different, Dalila protested. You're an Alpha King. You have power and respect. And I've spent 30 years being told my hair means I'm not legitimate. Kieran interrupted quietly. That it's proof my mother was unfaithful. That chaos runs in my blood and eventually I'll destroy everything. There's an entire faction of southern nobles who believe red-haired rulers bring instability and ruin. Dalila stared at him, her mind struggling to process that an Alpha King had faced the same cruel whispers she'd heard her entire life. They really say that? She whispered. All the time, Kieran confirmed. So when I see you, someone else being judged for the exact same thing, I recognize the pain. Something shifted in Dalila's chest. A crack in the armor she'd built around her disappointments. That's terrible, she said honestly. It's also why my wolf recognized you the moment I saw you in that hall, Kieran said, and his voice held something raw and wondering. Recognized me as what? Dalila asked, though part of her already knew and was terrified by it. As mate, Kieran said simply. The word hung between them like something alive and impossible. Oh, this just got significantly more interesting, Iris muttered. That's not— Wolves don't mate with humans, Dalila stammered, her heart racing. That's not how it works. Usually you're right, Kieran agreed. Wolf shifters typically mate with other shifters, but sometimes, very rarely, a wolf recognizes a human as their destined mate. My wolf is absolutely certain about you. Your wolf made a mistake, Dalila said desperately. I'm nobody. I'm a servant with cursed hair and nothing that would make me suitable for an Alpha King's mate. You're Dalila, Kieran said, stepping closer. You're brave enough to speak honestly even when you're terrified. You're kind enough to help a lost stranger despite unwanted attention. You're strong enough to endure cruelty without breaking. That's not nobody. That's extraordinary. His words wrapped around all the cold, rejected parts of her that had learned to expect disappointment. I think, Iris said diplomatically, that Dalila needs time to process this rather significant information. Perhaps we should let her breathe before her brain explodes from overwhelming emotions. Of course, Kieran said immediately, stepping back. I'm sorry for overwhelming you. Take all the time you need. Thank you, Your Majesty, Dalila managed, already backing toward the door. I hope you find your quarters comfortable. She fled. Iris followed at a more leisurely pace. Once they were safely back in the servant corridors, Iris grabbed Dalila's arm and steered her into an empty storage room. An Alpha King's wolf chose you as his mate, Iris said, her voice carefully neutral. That's rather significant. It's impossible, Dalila said, pacing the small space. He doesn't know who I really am. What I'm hiding. If he knew you're the rightful heir to this kingdom, hidden for 22 years because your red hair made you too dangerous to acknowledge, Iris finished. You think that would change his wolf's recognition? It would make everything more complicated, Dalila said desperately. He's here establishing an alliance with King Aldrich. If he discovers I'm the legitimate heir, that King Aldrich sits on a throne that should be mine, it could destroy the alliance, could put you in danger, could get us both. She stopped herself, but Iris understood. Could get us both eliminated, Iris finished quietly. Yes, that's the danger we've lived with for 22 years. But Dalila, listen to me carefully. She gripped Dalila's shoulders, forcing eye contact. Your mother, Queen Lysa, told me to wait for a sign. She said the old prophecy would come true when two flames met. When fire recognized fire. Iris paused meaningfully. An Alpha King from the fire-blessed line, with hair exactly like yours, whose wolf recognized you immediately? That's not coincidence. That's prophecy. Or it's terrible timing, Dalila whispered. Terrible timing and prophecy aren't mutually exclusive, Iris said dryly. They often go together, actually. Prophecies have terrible timing built into their nature. Despite everything, Dalila almost smiled. What am I supposed to do? She asked. For now? Nothing, Iris said firmly. You keep being exactly what you've always been. A servant who works hard and stays invisible. Let him court you if he wants. Let yourself feel something for someone who sees you as worthy. And when the time comes to reveal the truth, if it comes, we'll face it together. You make it sound simple, Dalila said. It's not simple at all, Iris admitted. It's terrifying and complicated and probably going to explode in our faces spectacularly. But sometimes the only way forward is through the fire. Your mother believed that. I believe that. And I think, deep down, you believe it too. Dalila hugged her fiercely. I love you. I love you too, my fierce little flame, Iris said, using the nickname she'd called Dalila since infancy. Now let's get back to work before Overseer Marlena assigns us to scrub the entire castle with our toothbrushes. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of normal duties that felt distinctly abnormal, because Dalila kept expecting Kieran to appear around every corner. He didn't, which was somehow worse than if he had. By evening, she'd worked herself into a state of nervous anticipation, mixed with relief, mixed with disappointment, mixed with confusion about why she was disappointed when she should be relieved. You're thinking so loudly I can hear it from here, Mira said, appearing beside Dalila in the linen storage room where she'd been folding sheets with excessive concentration. What happened after you left the ceremony with the gorgeous Alpha King? And don't say nothing, because Iris has been humming cheerfully all afternoon, which means something significant definitely happened. His wolf recognized me as his mate, Dalila said flatly. Mira dropped the pillowcase she'd been holding. His wolf did what? Could you possibly yell that louder? Dalila hissed. I don't think the servants in the northern tower heard you. I'm sorry, but did you just say... Mira lowered her voice to an urgent whisper. An Alpha King's wolf recognized you as his mate? That's what he told me. And what did you say? I told him it was impossible and ran away, Dalila admitted. You ran away from your mate, Mira said slowly. From an Alpha King who chose you specifically. Dalila, that's either incredibly brave or monumentally stupid. It's practical, Dalila said firmly. Because even if his wolf did recognize me, which I'm still not convinced isn't some kind of mistake, I have secrets that make any relationship impossible. What secrets? Mira asked curiously. Dalila almost told her. Almost shared the truth about the mark, about her birth mother, about being the hidden heir. But telling Mira would put her in danger, and Dalila loved her too much for that. Just complicated family history, Dalila said instead. The kind that makes relationships dangerous. Everything worth having is dangerous, Mira said wisely. That's what makes it worth having. Before Dalila could respond, a younger servant burst into the storage room, breathless with excitement. There's going to be a celebration tomorrow night, she announced, to honor the alliance with the Southern Territories. All the servants are required to attend for part of it. We'll be serving, but the Alpha King specifically requested that staff be allowed to participate in the dancing afterward. Dancing? Mira's eyes lit up. Servants get to dance at a formal celebration? The Alpha King said in the Southern Territories, everyone dances together regardless of rank, the girl said. King Aldrich agreed to honor their customs. After she left, Mira turned to Dalila with a knowing look. An Alpha King who wants servants to dance at celebrations, she said meaningfully. An Alpha King whose wolf chose a servant as his mate. This is romantic. This is destiny unfolding. This is me having a crisis while you narrate it like a love story, Dalila interrupted. It is a love story, Mira insisted. You're just too stubborn to admit it yet. That night, alone in her quarters while her roommates slept, Dalila carefully removed the binding around her shoulder that kept the mark hidden. In candlelight, the symbol seemed to glow. A crowned wolf wreathed in flames, the ancient mark of the Northern Kingdom's royal bloodline. The mark pulsed with warmth, responding to something, to someone, to him. "What am I supposed to do?" Dalila whispered to the mark, to her mother's memory, to the destiny she'd never asked for. "He can't know the truth, but how do I hide from someone whose wolf has already recognized my soul?" The mark pulsed again, warmer, and Dalila could almost hear Queen Lisa's voice. Sometimes the only way forward is through the fire. She wrapped the binding back carefully, covering the proof of who she really was. Tomorrow there would be dancing. Tomorrow Kieran would probably try to court her properly. Tomorrow she'd have to decide whether to let herself feel something for someone who saw her as worthy, even though telling him the truth could destroy everything. Tomorrow felt impossibly close and terrifyingly inevitable. But tonight, just for a moment, Dalila let herself imagine what it might feel like to be seen, to be chosen, to be loved for exactly who she was. Fire-colored hair, hidden mark, dangerous secrets and all. It felt like hope. And hope was the most dangerous thing she'd allowed herself to feel in 22 years. Chapter 3. Morning arrived with Overseer Marlena's voice echoing through the servant quarters like a particularly aggressive rooster with volume control issues. "Up! Everyone up! We have a celebration to prepare for tonight, which means 16 hours of work condensed into 12 hours with no breaks and definitely no complaining." "She's so inspiring," Iris muttered from her bed, not moving. "Really makes you want to leap enthusiastically into the day." "I heard that, Iris," Marlena called. "Then my volume was perfect," Iris said cheerfully, finally sitting up. Dalila dressed quickly, braiding her hair with extra care and triple-checking that her sleeve modifications completely covered the mark on her shoulder. The castle was already buzzing with preparation energy. Servants rushing through corridors carrying linens and flowers, cooks arguing about menu modifications in voices that carried 3 floors, musicians arriving with instruments that needed tuning. The Alpha King requested that tonight's celebration include Southern Territory traditions, Mira said breathlessly, appearing beside Dalila as they carried flower arrangements toward the Great Hall. "Apparently that means communal dancing, informal seating arrangements, and something called moon wine that's supposed to be amazing." "It sounds chaotic," Dalila said. "It sounds fun," Mira corrected. "The exact opposite of our usual rigid ceremonies where everyone stands in assigned positions looking uncomfortable." The Great Hall was being transformed from its usual formal severity into something warmer, more welcoming. Instead of long tables arranged by rank, there were clusters of round tables scattered throughout the space. Instead of the typical ice blue and white Northern Kingdom colors, there were warm golds and deep crimsons mixed in. Southern Territory colors that made the whole room feel like it was lit by firelight even in daylight. "I have to admit," Iris said, surveying the decorations with approval, "the Southern Territories have better aesthetic sense than our everything must be pale and cold approach." "The Northern Kingdom values tradition," Overseer Marlena said stiffly, appearing behind them with her trademark disapproving expression. "The Northern Kingdom values making people uncomfortable," Iris muttered, just barely too quiet for Marlena to hear clearly. They spent the morning and afternoon in frantic preparation. Dalila was assigned to the flower arrangements, which was better than some alternatives. At least flowers didn't argue or complain when you positioned them incorrectly. She was carefully arranging late summer roses when a familiar voice spoke behind her. "Those are beautiful." She turned to find Kieran standing there, looking more relaxed than he had yesterday. He wore simpler clothes, still obviously expensive but comfortable rather than formal. His copper gold hair was pulled back loosely, and his amber eyes held warmth that made her breath catch. "Your Majesty," Dalila said, dropping into a curtsy that nearly knocked over her flower arrangement. "I didn't hear you approach. I've been told I move quietly for someone my size," Kieran said with a slight smile. "May I speak with you?" "I'm working," Dalila said, though it sounded weak even to her own ears. "I'll only take a moment," Kieran promised. "Please?" The simple request, without demands or commands, made it impossible to refuse. They walked to one of the small balconies overlooking the gardens, spaces designed for brief respite, but rarely used during working hours. Late afternoon sunlight painted everything in gold, and the air smelled like roses and upcoming autumn. "I wanted to apologize," Kieran said once they were alone, "for overwhelming you yesterday. I have a habit of being direct when I should probably be more diplomatic." "You told me your wolf recognized me as your mate," Dalila said. "I'm not sure there's a diplomatic way to share that information." "Fair point," Kieran acknowledged. "But I could have given you more time to process instead of dropping it on you all at once." "Why didn't you?" Dalila asked curiously. "Because I've learned that waiting rarely makes difficult conversations easier," Kieran said. "And because my wolf was absolutely certain, which made pretending otherwise feel dishonest." There was something refreshing about his bluntness, his refusal to play the elaborate social games Dalila had watched nobles engage in her entire life. "I still don't understand how your wolf could recognize a human," Dalila said carefully. "How that's even possible." "Wolf recognition goes beyond species," Kieran explained. "It's about souls, not bodies. When a wolf recognizes someone as mate, it's recognizing a soul that complements theirs perfectly. Someone who understands their nature, who shares their values, who makes them feel complete in ways they didn't know they were incomplete." "That sounds like a fairy tale," Dalila said. "It probably does," Kieran agreed. "But fairy tales exist because they're based on truths people recognize instinctively. The truth that some connections transcend logic, that some recognition goes deeper than rational explanation." He moved closer, and Dalila could smell pine and leather and something wild that made her pulse race. "My wolf recognized your strength," Kieran said quietly. "Your kindness despite cruelty, your honesty despite fear, your refusal to break even when people try to make you feel broken. That's not nothing. That's everything." "You barely know me," Dalila protested weakly. "I know enough," Kieran said. "I know you help lost strangers even when it brings unwanted attention. I know you stand in halls enduring judgment without losing your dignity. I know you have people who love you fiercely. Iris clearly adores you. Those things tell me what I need to know." "There are things about me you don't know," Dalila said desperately, thinking about the mark burning beneath her sleeve. "Complicated things that would change everything." "Everyone has complicated things," Kieran said gently. "I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for a chance. Let me court you properly. Let me show you that my wolf's recognition wasn't a mistake. And if I say no, then I'll respect that," Kieran said immediately. "I'll never force connection or demand something you're not willing to give, but I hope you'll at least consider saying yes." Dalila looked at him, really looked at him, saw the sincerity in his amber eyes, the patience in his posture, the way he was offering her a choice when most Alpha Kings would simply take what they wanted. "I'll consider it," she heard herself say, "but I need time." "Take all the time you need," Kieran said, his face lighting up with hope. "I'll be here." He bowed slightly, an Alpha King bowing to a servant again, and left her standing in the golden afternoon light, her heart racing and her mark pulsing with warmth beneath her sleeve. Evening arrived too quickly. Dalila and the other servants changed into their better clothing, still clearly servant attire, but clean and less worn. Iris appeared in a deep blue dress that made her look at least 10 years younger. "You look beautiful," Dalila said honestly. "I look like someone who's about to enjoy watching an Alpha King try to court my daughter in the middle of a formal celebration," Iris corrected with a grin. "This is going to be entertaining." The great hall had been completely transformed by candlelight and the warm glow of hundreds of lanterns. Music filled the space, not the usual rigid Northern Kingdom orchestra, but something more lively, with drums and strings that made you want to move. The formal dinner proceeded with the expected speeches and courses. King Aldrich welcomed Kieran officially. Kieran thanked the Northern Kingdom for their hospitality and spoke about the benefits of the alliance between their territories. Then came the moment Dalila had been both anticipating and dreading. "In Southern Territory tradition," Kieran announced, standing before the assembled crowd, "celebrations include everyone, nobility, guards, staff. We believe that joy shared is joy multiplied. Tonight we honor both Northern and Southern customs. After the formal dinner concludes, the hall will open for dancing. and everyone present is invited to participate." A ripple of surprise moved through the northern nobles. Servants exchanging glances ranged from excited to nervous. "This should be interesting," Iris whispered. "Half these nobles look like someone just suggested they juggle burning torches while riding chickens." The formal dinner concluded, and musicians began playing something livelier. A few brave nobles started dancing, then a few more. Gradually, the rigid formality dissolved into something warmer, more genuine. Kieran moved through the crowd with easy confidence, speaking with nobles and servants alike without visible distinction between ranks. Dalila watched from the edges, trying to remain invisible out of habit. It didn't work. Kieran appeared beside her with 2 goblets of the moon wine Mira had mentioned, something that glowed faintly silver in the candlelight. "Dance with me?" he asked simply. Every servant and noble within hearing distance turned to stare. "I don't know Southern Territory dances," Dalila protested. "I'll teach you," Kieran said. "Please?" There was no refusing without causing a scene. Dalila took his hand, ignoring the whispers that followed them to the dance floor. "Just follow my lead," Kieran said softly, positioning them in the basic stance. "The steps are simple. It's about connection, not complexity." The music swelled, and they began to move. Kieran was right. The steps were simple, flowing, and natural rather than the rigid formality of Northern Kingdom dances. But what made it overwhelming wasn't the dancing. It was the way he looked at her, like she was the only person in the entire hall, like her fire-colored hair was beautiful instead of cursed, like seeing her was more important than any alliance or kingdom connection. "You're doing perfectly," Kieran murmured as they turned. "I'm trying not to step on your feet," Dalila admitted. "You're succeeding admirably," Kieran said with a smile. "You're also the most beautiful person in this hall." "That's objectively false," Dalila said. "Have you seen the northern nobles? They're literally bred for appearance." "They're cold and perfect and exactly identical," Kieran said. "You're warm and real and entirely yourself. That's infinitely more beautiful." The mark beneath Dalila's sleeve pulsed with heat, responding to his nearness, to his words, to something deeper than either of them was saying aloud. "Why me?" Dalila asked quietly. "Honestly, why would your wolf choose someone like me when you could have anyone?" "Because you're brave enough to ask that question," Kieran said. "Because you don't see your own worth, which means you won't take it for granted. Because when you smile, really smile, it's like watching sunrise. And because my wolf knows what my heart is still learning, that you're exactly who I've been looking for without knowing I was looking." Dalila's throat tightened with emotion she couldn't name. The dance ended too soon. Kieran bowed formally, thanked her, and was immediately surrounded by nobles wanting his attention. But as Dalila returned to the edges where servants gathered, she touched her sleeve where the mark burned beneath, and allowed herself to wonder, what if prophecy wasn't just about duty? What if it was also about love? Chapter 4. The morning after the celebration arrived with Overseer Marlena's voice cutting through the servant quarters like someone had decided to weaponize disapproval at maximum volume. "Every servant who danced last night will work double shifts today to compensate for the frivolity. Up, now! And Dalila, my office immediately." "That sounds ominous," Iris muttered, still half asleep in her bed. "Want me to come with you? I can provide moral support and strategic commentary about her questionable life choices." "I'll be fine," Dalila said, though her stomach twisted with nervousness. Being summoned to the overseer's office was never good. She dressed quickly, braided her hair with extra severity, and made her way through the awakening castle to Marlena's small, painfully organized office near the servant quarters. The overseer sat behind her desk, looking like someone who'd been personally offended by joy itself. "Sit," Marlena commanded. Dalila sat, trying to look appropriately apologetic for whatever crime she'd apparently committed. "You danced with the Alpha King last night," Marlena said, her tone suggesting this was equivalent to setting the castle on fire while juggling royal artifacts. "In front of the entire court, a servant, dancing with an Alpha King. He asked me directly," Dalila said carefully. "I couldn't refuse without causing offense to our guest. You could have claimed illness. Marlena said. You could have found another servant to take your place. You could have done anything except draw attention to yourself, to your unfortunate appearance, your cursed hair, your general unsuitability for that kind of notice. Each word landed like a small blade. Dalila kept her expression neutral through years of practice. I apologize if my actions reflected poorly on the household, Dalila said quietly. Your actions reflected exactly what everyone already knows, Marlena said coldly. That fire-colored hair brings chaos and disrupts proper order. The Alpha King was being kind, charitable toward someone beneath his notice. Don't mistake his courtesy for genuine interest. Something hot and defiant flared in Dalila's chest. The Alpha King seemed perfectly genuine in his interest. Watch your tone, Marlena snapped. You're a servant with cursed blood and questionable origins. The sooner you remember your place, the better for everyone involved. My place, Dalila heard herself say, her voice steady despite her racing heart, is wherever I choose to stand. And if an Alpha King chooses to notice me, that's his decision, not yours to question. Marlena's face went pale, then red. You're dismissed. Get back to work. And if you continue displaying this kind of inappropriate confidence, I'll have you reassigned to the stables permanently. Dalila left before her temper could override her survival instincts. She found Iris in the laundry rooms, already elbow-deep in soapy water and sheets despite the early hour. How bad was it? Iris asked immediately. She called me cursed, questioned my origins, said Kieran was just being charitable, and threatened to assign me to permanent stable duty if I continue displaying inappropriate confidence. Dalila recited. Inappropriate confidence, Iris repeated thoughtfully. That's a new one. Usually she goes with unseemly boldness or improper presumption. She's expanding her vocabulary of disapproval. Despite her hurt, Dalila smiled slightly. The Alpha King danced with you because he wanted to, Iris said firmly, attacking a stubborn stain with unnecessary force. Because his wolf recognized you as mate. Because you're extraordinary whether Marlena's limited imagination can comprehend that or not. She said I should remember my place, Dalila said quietly. Your place is rightful heir to this kingdom, Iris said, lowering her voice to barely audible. Your place is the throne currently occupied by someone else. Your place is wherever you decide it should be, mark or no mark, red hair or blonde. Don't let that bitter woman make you forget who you really are. I don't know who I really am anymore, Dalila admitted. I'm a servant pretending to be invisible. I'm a hidden heir who can't claim her heritage. I'm someone an Alpha King's wolf chose despite having no idea about my secrets. Which one is real? All of them, Iris said simply. People aren't one thing. We're complicated and contradictory and beautifully messy. You can be all those things at once. Before Dalila could respond, Mira burst into the laundry room with the energy of someone who'd consumed excessive amounts of morning tea. You'll never believe what I just heard, she announced breathlessly. The Alpha King requested permission to extend his stay. Instead of 6 months, he wants to remain for a full year. Dalila's heart did something complicated involving acceleration and possible temporary stopping. A year? She repeated. A full year, Mira confirmed. He told King Aldrich that building strong alliances requires time and understanding, and 6 months isn't sufficient to truly learn Northern Kingdom customs and establish lasting connections. That's the diplomatic explanation, Iris said knowingly. The real explanation is standing right here looking panicked. I am not the reason an Alpha King is extending his stay, Dalila protested. You absolutely are, Mira said. Everyone's talking about how he watched you all through the celebration, how he danced with you specifically despite dozens of noble ladies practically throwing themselves at him, how he looked at you like you were the only person in the entire hall. People are talking about that. Dalila's mortification reached new heights. Everyone's talking about that, Mira confirmed cheerfully. It's the most interesting thing to happen in this castle since Lord Pemberton accidentally set his own wig on fire trying to impress Lady Catherine with an elaborate candle trick 3 years ago. That was truly spectacular, Iris agreed. The smell lingered for weeks. This is different, Dalila said desperately. This is an Alpha King and complicated mate recognition and secrets that could get people hurt if discovered. This is romance, Mira corrected. This is destiny. This is exactly the kind of story I've been waiting to witness firsthand. Your enthusiasm for my emotional crisis is noted and somewhat concerning, Dalila said. I'm being supportive, Mira defended. Supportive people are enthusiastic about their friends finding love with gorgeous Alpha Kings who have excellent taste in women. She's not wrong, Iris added unhelpfully. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of work punctuated by Dalila, actively avoiding any corridor where Kieran might appear. She was successful until early afternoon, when she was carrying fresh linens through the eastern wing and nearly collided with him coming around a corner. Dalila, he said, his face lighting up with genuine pleasure at seeing her. I've been looking for you. Your Majesty? Dalila managed, juggling linens and trying to curtsy simultaneously with predictably awkward results. Several sheets escaped and drifted gracefully to the floor like very slow, very embarrassing snow. Let me help, Kieran said, immediately crouching to gather fallen linens. You don't need to. An Alpha King shouldn't. An Alpha King can help someone carry linens if he wants to, Kieran said, handing them back with a smile that made Dalila's heart do complicated gymnastics. Walk with me? It wasn't really a question, and Dalila found herself nodding before her practical side could object. They walked through the castle's quieter corridors, and Kieran seemed content with comfortable silence for several minutes before speaking. I heard you were summoned to the Overseer's office this morning, he said carefully. I hope that wasn't because of our dance last night. How did you hear about that? Dalila asked, surprised. I make it my business to know when people I care about are treated unfairly, Kieran said. What did she say? Nothing important, Dalila said quickly. Just reminding me of appropriate behavior and servant protocols. She told you I was being charitable, Kieran said flatly. That I was just being kind to someone beneath my notice. Dalila stopped walking. How did you possibly know that? Because I've heard variations of that speech my entire life, Kieran said, his voice tight with controlled anger. From nobles who thought I was being too familiar with common people. From advisors who thought I should maintain proper distance from those beneath my station. From people who fundamentally misunderstand that worth isn't determined by birth or title or hair color. She also threatened to assign me to permanent stable duty if I continue displaying inappropriate confidence, Dalila admitted. Something dangerous flashed in Kieran's amber eyes. She threatened you for having confidence? She threatens everyone, Dalila said quickly, suddenly concerned about what an angry Alpha King might do to Overseer Marlena. It's her standard approach to management. She believes fear motivates efficiency. Fear motivates compliance, Kieran corrected. Not loyalty. Not genuine effort. Just people doing the minimum required to avoid punishment. That's the Northern Kingdom way, Dalila said with resigned humor. Order through hierarchy. Efficiency through fear. Everyone in their assigned place doing their assigned duties without question or confidence. That's a terrible way to run anything, Kieran said. In the Southern Territories, we believe people work best when they're valued, when they feel seen and respected regardless of their role. A wolf pack functions because every member matters, not because some members matter more than others. That sounds idealistic, Dalila said. It sounds functional, Kieran corrected. Your kingdom has rigid order, but nobody seems particularly happy. My territories have flexible structure and people are generally content. Which system actually works better? Dalila had never thought about it that way. You're saying the Northern Kingdom's entire approach to hierarchy is wrong? I'm saying your kingdom confuses order with control, Kieran said carefully. Real order comes from people choosing cooperation because it benefits everyone. Forced order through fear and rigid hierarchy just creates resentment, and people looking for ways to escape. Like hiding in servant corridors and staying invisible, Dalila said quietly. Like hiding when you should be seen. Kieran agreed. He stopped walking and turned to face her directly. I wanted to ask you something. That sounds ominous, Dalila said, trying for humor despite her racing heart. Will you have dinner with me? Kieran asked. Not a formal event. Just you and me. Somewhere we can actually talk without hundreds of people watching and judging. That's not appropriate, Dalila said automatically. A servant and an Alpha King don't have private dinners. Why not? Kieran asked genuinely. Who made that rule? And why should we follow it if it prevents us from getting to know each other? Because there are reasons, Dalila said desperately. Complications. Things about me you don't know that would change everything. Then tell me, Kieran said simply. Whatever these complications are, tell me. Let me decide if they change anything. Dalila looked at him. At his open expression, his genuine interest, his complete lack of judgment, and nearly told him everything. About the mark, about her birth mother, about being the rightful heir to the kingdom his host currently ruled. But fear won over trust. I need more time, she said instead. Then take it, Kieran said immediately. But know that whatever you're hiding, whatever complications you think make this impossible, my wolf's recognition doesn't waver. You're still my mate, still the person I want to know, still worth every effort. He left her standing in the corridor with her linens and her racing heart and her secrets burning beneath her sleeve. That evening, Dalila found herself in the castle's small library, a space servants rarely used but weren't explicitly forbidden from. She'd come looking for the old prophecy texts Iris had mentioned, wanting to understand what her mother had believed about fire-haired heirs and destiny. She found the ancient book tucked in a corner covered with dust that suggested nobody had opened it in years. The prophecy was written in Old Northern dialect, but Dalila could read it well enough. When darkness falls upon the northern throne, when order breaks and chaos reigns alone, two flames will rise from different lands, united not by crowns, but joined by hands. The hidden heir with fire in her blood, the blessed king who's misunderstood. Together they will heal what's broken long and bring the kingdom back where it belongs. Light reading? Dalila jumped, nearly dropping the ancient book. Kieran stood in the library doorway, looking amused and curious. This is... Dalila stammered, trying to hide the book behind her back. The old prophecy about fire-haired heirs, Kieran said, moving closer. I've read it. We have a similar version in the Southern Territories, actually. About two flames meeting when the time is right. You have prophecies about fire-haired people? Dalila asked, surprised. We have prophecies about the fire-blessed line, Kieran corrected. My family line. The prophecy says when a fire-blessed Alpha King meets his true mate, they'll unite divided lands and bring balance between order and instinct. Dalila's mind spun. That sounds like our situations are connected somehow, Kieran finished. Like maybe my wolf recognizing you isn't random chance. Like maybe there's something bigger happening that neither of us fully understands yet. Prophecies aren't real, Dalila said weakly. They're just old stories people tell to make sense of chaos. Maybe, Kieran agreed. Or maybe they're truths we recognize instinctively but struggle to name rationally. Either way, I'm here. You're here. My wolf chose you. Those are facts regardless of prophecy. He moved closer, close enough that Dalila could feel his warmth, could smell pine and leather and something wild. Have dinner with me, he said again. Let me know you properly. Let yourself be known. Whatever complications exist, we'll face them together. Together, Dalila repeated, tasting the word like possibility. Together, Kieran confirmed. If you'll risk it. Dalila looked at the prophecy book in her hands, at the Alpha King standing close enough to touch, at the choice that felt simultaneously terrifying and inevitable. One dinner, she heard herself say. Just talking. Nothing complicated. Nothing complicated, Kieran agreed, though his smile suggested he knew everything about them was already complicated beyond measure. But maybe, just maybe, complicated could also be wonderful. Chapter 5. The next evening, Dalila found herself in one of the castle's small private dining rooms wearing her best dress and trying not to have a complete crisis about having dinner alone with an Alpha King who didn't know she was technically the rightful queen of the kingdom he was currently visiting. You look beautiful, Iris said, adjusting Dalila's collar for the third time. Also terrified, but mostly beautiful. I'm having dinner with an Alpha King, Dalila said, her voice slightly higher than normal. An Alpha King whose wolf chose me as mate. An Alpha King who doesn't know I'm hiding secrets that could destroy alliances and possibly get people hurt. This is fine. Everything is fine. You're spiraling, Iris observed. Take a breath. Remember, he already knows the most important thing, that you're worthy of being chosen. Everything else is just details. The details include me being the legitimate heir to the throne currently occupied by his ally, Dalila pointed out. Medium-sized details, Iris amended. Slightly significant details. Details that will definitely complicate things when revealed, but aren't actually problems with you as a person. That's not reassuring, Dalila said. I'm not trying to reassure you, Iris said honestly. I'm trying to remind you that you're extraordinary, regardless of secrets, or marks, or heritage. Now go have dinner with your mate and try not to accidentally reveal state-altering information during appetizers. Your advice is terrible, Dalila said. My advice is realistic, Iris corrected, pushing her gently toward the door. Go. Be yourself. Let him see you. That's all any of us can do. The private dining room was small and intimate, lit by candles that made everything glow warmly. A simple table was set for two with Northern and Southern Territory dishes mixed together. Someone had clearly put thought into combining both cultures. Kieran was already there, having apparently arrived early. He wore simpler clothes than usual, and his copper-gold hair was loose around his shoulders. He looked up when Dalila entered, and his face lit up with genuine pleasure. You came, he said, as if there'd been doubt. I said I would, Dalila replied, suddenly nervous. Though I considered running away approximately 17 times. But you didn't, Kieran said, moving to pull out her chair like she was nobility instead of a servant. That's courage. That's terror with commitment, Dalila corrected, sitting carefully. Kieran laughed, that warm, genuine sound that made something flutter in her chest. Dinner started with easy conversation about neutral topics. The food, excellent. The castle's architecture, impressive but intimidating. The difference between northern and southern climates, significant. Tell me about the southern territories, Dalila said, genuinely curious. What's it like growing up where red hair is considered blessed instead of cursed? Kieran's expression turned thoughtful. It's different from here in almost every way. We don't have rigid hierarchies. Packs function through earned respect rather than inherited title. We don't separate people by birth. The Alpha's offspring eat alongside the newest pack member's family. And we don't judge based on appearance. We judge based on character, strength, honor. That sounds like fantasy, Dalila said. It has problems, Kieran admitted. Sometimes conflicts require physical challenges to resolve, which can be dangerous. Sometimes pack loyalty creates tension with necessary changes. Sometimes tradition and progress clash spectacularly. But people are generally happy. They feel valued. They belong. Belonging, Dalila repeated quietly. What's that like? Something shifted in Kieran's expression, understanding mixed with sadness. You've never felt like you belong here, have you? I'm a servant with fire-colored hair in a kingdom that values blonde nobility, Dalila said with attempted humor. Belonging was never really an option. It should have been, Kieran said firmly. Any kingdom that makes someone feel wrong for existing isn't functioning properly. That's easy to say when you're an Alpha King, Dalila pointed out. I'm an Alpha King who spent most of his life being questioned, Kieran corrected. My red hair meant nobles whispered I was illegitimate. My preference for earned respect over inherited privilege meant traditional factions claimed I was destroying centuries of proper order. My insistence on treating all pack members with equal dignity meant advisors said I was being too familiar with common wolves. But you changed things anyway, Dalila said. Because I had the power to, Kieran acknowledged, and because I had people who believed in the changes I wanted to make. My mother, before she passed, taught me that true strength isn't forcing compliance. It's inspiring people to choose cooperation because they believe in shared purpose. She sounds wise, Dalila said. She was extraordinary, Kieran said, his voice warm with memory. She had red hair too, darker than mine, like mahogany catching firelight. She faced constant criticism for contaminating the royal bloodline with fire-colored chaos, but she never apologized for who she was, never made herself smaller to make others comfortable. "I wish I had her confidence," Dalila said quietly. "You have more confidence than you realize," Kieran said. "You stood up to your overseer yesterday. You're having dinner with me despite knowing it'll cause gossip and judgment. You exist fully in a kingdom that's spent your entire life telling you to hide. That's not lack of confidence. That's courage. Or stubbornness," Dalila suggested. "Same thing sometimes," Kieran said with a smile. They ate in comfortable silence for a few moments before Kieran spoke again, his tone more serious. "Can I ask you something personal?" "That depends on the question," Dalila said carefully. "You mentioned complications," Kieran said. "Things about yourself that you think would change everything. Will you tell me what they are?" Dalila's heart raced. This was the moment. The choice between continued hiding and dangerous honesty. "I can't," she said finally. "Not yet. Not because I don't trust you, but because the truth involves other people. Secrets that aren't just mine to share. Secrets that could hurt people if revealed," Kieran asked. "Secrets that could get people eliminated if discovered," Dalila corrected quietly. Kieran was silent for a long moment, his expression thoughtful. "Then I won't push. Everyone has a right to their secrets, especially when revealing them creates danger. But know that whatever you're hiding, whatever these complications are, my wolf's recognition doesn't change. You're still my mate, still worthy of being chosen." "How can you be certain?" Dalila asked desperately. "How can your wolf be certain when you don't know everything about me?" "Because souls recognize truth," Kieran said simply. "My wolf sees your soul, sees strength and kindness and fierce loyalty and courage, sees someone who's been hurt but refuses to become bitter, sees someone who loves deeply, despite having every reason to guard her heart. Those are the things that matter. Everything else is just context." Tears pricked Dalila's eyes. "You make it sound simple." "It is simple," Kieran said. "People make it complicated with rules and expectations and fears about what others will think. But at its core, mate recognition is simple. I see you. You see me. We choose each other. Everything else we figure out together." "Together," Dalila repeated, that word again feeling like possibility and terror combined. "Together," Kieran confirmed. "If you'll have me." Before Dalila could respond, a sharp knock interrupted. A young servant burst in, breathless and panicked. "Your Majesty, Dalila, you need to come quickly. There's been an incident in the servant quarters." Iris collapsed. Terror flooded Dalila's system. She was moving before conscious thought, racing through corridors with Kieran close behind, her heart pounding with fear more intense than anything she'd felt before. They found Iris in her room surrounded by concerned servants and one harried-looking castle healer. She was conscious but pale, sitting on her bed looking frustrated and exhausted. "I'm fine," Iris said immediately when she saw Dalila's panicked face. "Just collapsed briefly, probably exhaustion and too much excitement lately." "You're not fine," the healer said firmly. "Your heart rhythm is irregular. You need rest. Real rest. Not I'll rest after I finish these 17 urgent tasks rest." "My heart rhythm has been irregular for years," Iris protested. "It's dramatic. It enjoys attention." "Iris," Dalila said, crouching beside her bed and gripping her hand. "Please, listen to the healer." "I'm listening," Iris grumbled. "I just don't like what I'm hearing. Rest means lying around being useless while other people do my work incorrectly. Rest means not ending up permanently collapsed," the healer corrected. "At least 2 weeks of minimal activity, possibly longer depending on how you respond." 2 weeks, Iris said flatly. "I'll go absolutely mad." "You'll be alive and annoying," Dalila said, her voice shaking slightly. "That's better than the alternative." Something softened in Iris's expression. "I'm all right, little flame. Truly. Just my rebellious heart making dramatic statements as usual." Kieran stepped forward, and everyone in the room immediately dropped into various stages of surprised respect for an Alpha King's unexpected presence. Iris needs proper care and rest, Kieran said firmly. I'll arrange for her to have a private room in the guest wing where she can recover comfortably without servant quarter chaos. That's not necessary, Iris started. It's completely necessary, Kieran interrupted gently. Someone who raised Dalila deserves the best care available. Consider it payment for producing someone extraordinary. Iris blinked, clearly surprised. Then her mouth curved into a knowing smile. You really do see her, don't you? I see her, Kieran confirmed. Which means I see the woman who made her who she is. Let us care for you properly. Practical and charming, Iris muttered. Dangerous combination. Fine. I'll accept your overly generous offer if it makes Dalila stop looking like she's about to cry. I'm not about to cry, Dalila lied, wiping suspiciously damp eyes. You're absolutely about to cry, Iris said affectionately. Now help me to this absurdly fancy guest room so I can rest dramatically while complaining about how unnecessary this all is. Hours later, after Iris was settled in a comfortable guest room with strict healer instructions and several amused guards assigned to keep her from sneaking out to do laundry, Dalila sat in a small courtyard trying to calm her still racing heart. Kieran found her there, sitting on a stone bench under moonlight. She's sleeping, he said quietly, settling beside her without asking permission. The healer says she'll recover fully with proper rest. Thank you, Dalila said, her voice rough with emotion. For the room, for the care, for everything. She's important to you, Kieran said simply. That makes her important to me. She's the only family I have, Dalila said. Then, before she could stop herself, she's the only person who knows who I really am. Kieran was quiet for a moment. Who are you really? And suddenly, sitting in moonlight with an Alpha King who'd shown her nothing but kindness and respect, Dalila found she couldn't keep hiding. Not completely. Not anymore. I'm someone with secrets that could change everything, she said carefully. Someone whose birth involved circumstances most people don't know. Someone who carries a mark that proves legitimacy nobody's supposed to see. Kieran's breath caught. A royal mark? A mark that says I belong somewhere I'm not allowed to be, Dalila confirmed quietly. A mark that makes me dangerous to people who currently hold power I could theoretically claim. The Northern Kingdom's mark, Kieran said slowly, understanding dawning. You're not just a servant. You're the hidden heir, Dalila whispered. The daughter Queen Lisa gave to Iris minutes before the rebellion. The legitimate heir with fire-colored hair that made me too dangerous to acknowledge. Silence stretched between them, heavy with revelation and implications. Does this change things? Dalila asked quietly, afraid of the answer. Does knowing I'm technically the rightful queen of the kingdom your ally currently rules change your wolf's recognition? Kieran was quiet for so long that Dalila's heart sank with anticipated rejection. Then he laughed, surprised and wondering and absolutely delighted. Change things? He repeated. Dalila, this explains everything. Why my wolf recognized you so instantly. Why the prophecy talks about two flames uniting divided lands. Why I felt like I was supposed to find you. You're not angry? Dalila asked uncertainly. Not concerned about the alliance implications or the succession complications or... I'm concerned about you having to hide who you are, Kieran interrupted firmly. I'm concerned about you carrying that burden alone. I'm concerned about the danger you've lived with for 22 years. But angry? No. My wolf chose a hidden queen. That's not a problem. That's destiny working exactly how it's supposed to. But King Aldrich, the current throne, your alliance, we'll figure it out, Kieran said, reaching for her hand. Together. No more hiding alone. No more carrying secrets by yourself. Whatever complications exist, we face them as mates, as partners, as two flames meeting exactly when we're supposed to. Dalila looked at him, at his amber eyes warm with certainty, at his copper gold hair catching moonlight, at the absolute acceptance in his expression. You really mean that? She said wonderingly. I really mean that, Kieran confirmed. Now tell me everything. Start from the beginning. Let me know all of you. Servant, hidden heir, extraordinary woman my wolf chose. All of it. so Dalila did. She told him about the rebellion, about her mother's impossible choice, about growing up hidden with Iris protecting secrets that could destroy them, about the mark burning on her shoulder blade, about never being able to claim her heritage, about existing in this liminal space between who she was and who she could never be. And Kieran listened to all of it, every word, every fear, every complication, with complete attention and unwavering acceptance. When she finished, he pulled her close, and Dalila let herself rest against him, feeling safe for the first time in longer than she could remember. "We'll figure this out," Kieran promised into her hair. "We'll find a way for you to be seen without creating danger. We'll honor your mother's sacrifice while building something new. Together." "Together," Dalila agreed, the word finally feeling like hope instead of impossibility. Under moonlight, two flames met and recognized each other fully. Hidden Heir and fire-blessed King, servant and Alpha. Two souls who'd been waiting without knowing they were waiting. And somewhere in the memory of old prophecies, destiny smiled. Chapter 6. Iris's recovery room in the guest wing had become the unofficial headquarters for what she called the most entertaining royal succession complication in Northern Kingdom history. "So let me make sure I understand correctly," Iris said from her unnecessarily comfortable bed, where she'd been ordered to rest for another week. "You told the Alpha King you're the hidden heir. He said, 'Wonderful. My wolf chose a queen.' And now you're both just, what? Dating? While you're technically the rightful ruler of the kingdom he's currently allied with? When you say it like that, it sounds absurd," Dalila said, arranging the flowers she'd brought, late autumn blooms that smelled like hope and impending complications. "It is absurd," Iris said cheerfully. "It's also romantic and dramatic and exactly the kind of destiny your mother believed in. I'm delighted. Also slightly terrified about the inevitable kingdom complications, but mostly delighted." "The situation is complicated," Dalila admitted, settling into the chair beside Iris's bed. "Kieran wants to help me reclaim my heritage, but I can't just announce surprise, I'm the real queen, without causing chaos that could hurt people. People like King Aldrich, who's been ruling peacefully for 22 years and didn't actually participate in the rebellion," Iris said thoughtfully. "People like Queen Elena, who married him afterward and has been genuinely kind in her distant royal way. People like the entire noble structure who've built their current positions on the assumption that the original royal line ended." "Exactly," Dalila said. "So even though I'm technically legitimate, actually claiming the throne would destroy lives and possibly destabilize the entire kingdom. Your mother would say that's why the prophecy talks about healing what's broken," Iris said. "Not destroying what exists, but transforming it into something better." Before Dalila could respond, Kieran arrived carrying a tray with enough food for 3 people. "The kitchen staff seem convinced you're dying of starvation," he told Iris, setting down the tray. "I tried explaining you're recovering from exhaustion, not a famine, but they insisted." "I like your kingdom's kitchen staff," Iris said, eyeing the food appreciatively. "They understand that recovery requires excessive amounts of cheese and bread." "That's definitely medical advice," Dalila said dryly. "It's delicious medical advice," Iris corrected, already reaching for bread. "The best kind." Kieran settled on the window seat, and Dalila noticed how naturally he'd become part of their small family unit. How Iris teased him like she'd known him for years instead of days. How he treated Iris with genuine respect and affection, rather than the distant courtesy most nobility showed servants. "I've been thinking about the succession situation," Kieran said once Iris was happily eating. "There might be a solution that doesn't require destroying the current structure." "I'm listening," Dalila said. "King Aldrich has no heir," Kieran said carefully. "He and Queen Elena never had offspring, which means the kingdom faces an uncertain future when he eventually passes. Nobles will fight over succession, factions will form, and the stability he's maintained could collapse into chaos." "That's a grim but accurate assessment," Iris said. "But what if there was a clear, legitimate heir?" Kieran continued. "Someone with undisputed claim who could provide stability and continuity. Someone who could be revealed at the right time, in the right way, as a solution rather than a threat." You want me to wait for King Aldrich to pass naturally, then claim the throne? Dalila asked. I want us to approach King Aldrich honestly, Kieran said. Tell him who you are. Show him the mark. Explain that you're not trying to displace him, but that you could be the answer to his succession problem. Let him choose to acknowledge you as heir apparent, to train you to eventually rule, to create a peaceful transition rather than a crisis. Silence filled the room as Dalila and Iris processed this suggestion. That's either brilliant or catastrophically naive, Iris said finally. King Aldrich could agree and welcome Dalila as the solution he needs, or he could panic and have us all quietly eliminated to protect his position. He could, Kieran acknowledged, but I've spent weeks observing him. He's a good ruler who genuinely cares about the kingdom's future. He's also getting older and clearly worried about succession. I think he'd see Dalila as an opportunity, not a threat. You're asking me to trust my life and Iris's life to your assessment of a man's character, Dalila said carefully. I'm asking you to trust that together, we can create a better outcome than continued hiding, Kieran said. But I'll only proceed with your permission. This is your heritage, your risk, your choice. Dalila looked at Iris, who shrugged eloquently. Your mother told me to wait for the sign. An Alpha King whose wolf chose you, who accepts your heritage completely, who wants to help you reclaim your place without causing destruction, that's a pretty significant sign. It could also be catastrophically bad timing disguised as destiny, Dalila pointed out. Those are often the same thing, Iris said. Destiny has terrible timing. It's one of its defining characteristics. Despite her fear, Dalila smiled. Your wisdom is questionable but entertaining. I contain multitudes, Iris said, stealing more cheese from the tray. Also, I think you should trust Kieran. Not just because his wolf chose you, but because he's spent the past week proving he sees you as partner, not possession. He's asking your permission, not making decisions for you. That's significant. Dalila turned to Kieran, searching his face. If we do this, if we approach King Aldrich and it goes wrong, you understand that you could be caught in the aftermath? That it could damage your territory's alliance? I understand, Kieran said simply, and I'm willing to risk it. Because you're my mate. Because this is right. Because hiding legitimate heirs to protect comfortable lies isn't justice. It's just convenient cruelty. You make it sound noble, Dalila said. I make it sound true, Kieran corrected. Dalila took a deep breath, feeling the mark on her shoulder blade pulse with warmth. All right, we'll approach King Aldrich, together. But we do this carefully, with planning and strategy, not just bursting into his chambers announcing I'm secretly royalty. Agreed, Kieran said, relief clear in his expression. We'll plan carefully. We'll choose the right moment. And we'll make sure Iris is safely protected regardless of outcome. I appreciate being included in the safety planning, Iris said. Though I'd like to note that I'm perfectly capable of protecting myself. I've kept a royal heir hidden for 22 years. I'm obviously excellent at survival strategies. You're obviously excellent at everything, Dalila said warmly. True, Iris agreed. Now both of you leave so I can rest dramatically while eating excessive amounts of this excellent cheese. Planning royal revelations is exhausting even when you're just observing. 3 days later, Dalila stood outside King Aldrich's private study with Kieran beside her, and her heart attempting to escape through her throat. We don't have to do this today, Kieran said quietly. We can wait. No, Dalila interrupted. If we wait, I'll lose my courage. Let's do this now. Kieran squeezed her hand briefly, then knocked. Enter. King Aldrich's voice called. They entered to find the king at his desk, surrounded by documents that suggested he'd been working for hours. He looked up, surprise crossing his face when he saw them together. Alpha King Kieran. And Dalila, isn't it? He set down his pen, curiosity replacing surprise. This is unexpected. Please sit. They sat in the chairs facing his desk. Dalila's hands trembled slightly, so she folded them in her lap where they couldn't betray her nervousness quite so obviously. Your Majesty, Kieran began formally, we come to you with information that will sound extraordinary. I ask that you hear us completely before responding." King Aldrich's expression shifted to something more guarded. "That's quite an opening. You have my attention." Dalila took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, 22 years ago during the Blood Moon Rebellion, Queen Lisa gave birth to a fourth heir, a daughter, born in secret with the royal mark proving legitimate descent." King Aldrich went very still. "Queen Lisa and her offspring perished in the rebellion. The entire royal family fell." "The entire known royal family," Dalila corrected quietly. "But the queen had given birth that night in the servant quarters. She gave her newborn daughter to her most trusted friend, Iris, the head of laundry, with instructions to hide the baby, to protect her, to wait for the right time to reveal the truth." "That's an interesting story," King Aldrich said carefully, his tone giving nothing away. "Do you have proof?" Without speaking, Dalila stood and carefully loosened the collar of her dress, turning so King Aldrich could see the mark on her left shoulder blade. The crowned wolf wreathed in flames glowed faintly in the afternoon light streaming through windows. King Aldrich's breath caught audibly. "That's the royal mark. The authentic seal that hasn't been seen since—" He trailed off, staring at the undeniable proof of Dalila's heritage. "Since the original royal family fell," Dalila finished, covering the mark again and sitting down. Her heart raced, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm that hidden heir. The daughter Queen Lisa died protecting." "Why reveal this now?" King Aldrich asked, and Dalila couldn't read his expression. "Why wait 22 years? Because I was hidden to protect me from being eliminated," Dalila said honestly. "Queen Lisa knew that even with legitimate blood and the royal mark, my red hair would make the nobility reject me as heir, that I'd be seen as chaos and contamination rather than legitimate succession. Fire-colored hair has always been controversial in the Northern Kingdom," King Aldrich admitted slowly. "The nobility values the traditional appearance standards deeply, which is why I'm not here to claim the throne or displace you," Dalila said quickly. "You've ruled well and peacefully. You've brought stability after chaos. I have no desire to destroy what you've built." "Then why reveal yourself at all?" King Aldrich asked. "Because you have no heir," Kieran said, speaking for the first time since Dalila began. "Because when you eventually pass, the kingdom faces uncertain succession. Because Dalila could be the answer to that problem, a legitimate heir who provides clear succession and prevents the noble conflicts that would otherwise tear the kingdom apart." King Aldrich was quiet for a long moment, his expression thoughtful. "You want me to acknowledge her as heir apparent, to train her to eventually rule, to create a peaceful transition?" "Yes," Dalila said simply. "And if I refuse?" King Aldrich asked. "If I decide this revelation is too dangerous, too destabilizing, then we disappear," Dalila said quietly. "I'll return to being a servant. We'll never speak of this again. I won't threaten your rule or create complications." "She'll also potentially be in danger her entire life," Kieran added, his voice tight with controlled emotion. "Because secrets this significant have a way of being discovered eventually. And if the wrong people find out when there's no official protection, Dalila becomes a target." King Aldrich studied them both for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled, tired but genuine. "Queen Lisa was my cousin," he said quietly. "Distant cousin. But we grew up together. She was extraordinary, brilliant and kind and fierce about protecting her people. When the rebellion came, when she fell, I mourned her deeply." He paused, emotion crossing his face. "I was chosen to rule afterward because I had enough royal blood to satisfy legitimacy concerns, but had been neutral during the rebellion, not involved in the violence, but acceptable to those who'd orchestrated it. I've spent 22 years ruling a kingdom I never expected to inherit, doing my best to honor Lisa's memory by being the kind of ruler she would have wanted." "You've succeeded," Dalila said honestly. "From what I've observed, you rule with wisdom and genuine care for people." "I've tried," King Aldrich said, "and I've also worried constantly about succession. Elena and I never had offspring, a source of great personal sadness and kingdom-level concern. I've known for years that my passing would create succession chaos, but I had no solution." He stood, moving around his desk to look at Dalila directly. "You look like her," he said wonderingly. "You have her eyes, her chin, the way she held herself. That same combination of strength and uncertainty. You're truly Lisa's daughter." "I am," Dalila confirmed. "Then you're not just the solution to my succession problem," King Aldrich said. "You're the answer I've been praying for without knowing exactly what to pray for. You're the way to honor Lisa's memory while securing the kingdom's future." Relief flooded through Dalila so intensely she felt dizzy. "You'll acknowledge me?" "I'll do better than that," King Aldrich said. "I'll train you properly, teach you everything you need to know about ruling, introduce you gradually to the court so the transition isn't shocking. And when the time is right, we'll reveal your heritage fully and establish clear succession. The nobility won't accept red-haired royalty easily," Kieran warned. "The nobility will accept what I tell them to accept," King Aldrich said with unexpected steel in his voice. "And we'll use the old prophecy to our advantage. Frame Dalila's red hair as fulfillment of ancient destiny rather than contamination. We'll make her fire-colored hair a strength, not a weakness." "That could work," Kieran said slowly. "It will work," King Aldrich corrected. "Because I'm not just a king who stumbled into ruling. I'm a king who spent 2 decades learning how to navigate noble sensibilities and kingdom complications. Trust me to handle this." He turned back to Dalila, his expression softening. "Welcome home, Princess Dalila. Your mother would be so proud of the woman you've become, and I'm honored to help you become the queen she always knew you could be." Tears streamed down Dalila's face, relief and joy and overwhelming emotion she couldn't contain. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank your courage," King Aldrich corrected gently. "Coming forward took extraordinary bravery. Now let's make sure that bravery leads to the future your mother envisioned." On Chapter 7. "So you're telling me," Iris said from her recovery bed where she'd been relocated to more secure quarters, "that King Aldrich not only didn't have us eliminated, but actually welcomed Dalila as the succession solution he's been desperately needing?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you," Dalila said, still feeling slightly dizzy from the afternoon's revelations. "He wants to train me, introduce me to court gradually, eventually reveal my heritage and establish official succession. That's—" Iris paused, searching for words. "That's suspiciously wonderful. I'm waiting for the complication." "There's always a complication. The complication is the nobility," Kieran said, leaning against the window with his arms crossed. "Specifically Lord Brennan and his faction, who've been vocal about maintaining pure bloodlines and traditional standards." "Ah, yes, the pure bloodline crowd," Iris said with deep sarcasm. "Because nothing says stable leadership like obsessing over hair color while ignoring actual competence." "King Aldrich has a plan for that," Dalila said. "He wants to use the old prophecy, frame my red hair as fulfillment of ancient destiny, make it a strength that proves I'm meant to rule. Fighting prejudice with prophecy," Iris mused. "It's either brilliant or completely insane. Possibly both." "It's what we have," Dalila said. "And it's better than I dared hope for." A knock interrupted their conversation. Queen Elena entered, and everyone immediately tensed. She hadn't been present during the revelation to King Aldrich, and her reaction remained unknown. "Your Majesty," Dalila said, starting to rise. "Sit," Elena said, but her tone was gentle rather than commanding. She settled in an empty chair, studying Dalila with an expression that was difficult to read. "Aldrich told me everything," Elena said finally. "About who you are, what you carry, the succession solution you represent." Silence stretched uncomfortably. "I want you to know," Elena continued, "that learning my husband has been deeply worried about succession for years, while I felt guilty for not providing an heir, has been enlightening. Also, somewhat frustrating that he never shared the depth of his concern, but men are occasionally terrible at communication." "Your Majesty," Dalila started. "I also want you to know," Elena interrupted gently, "that I loved Queen Lisa. She was kind to me when I first came to court as a young woman terrified of noble society. She taught me that true royalty isn't about appearance, it's about service, about seeing people and caring for them genuinely. Tears pricked Dalila's eyes. You knew my mother? I knew her briefly, but she made a lasting impression, Elena said. And I can see her in you. The same strength, the same compassion, the same way of holding yourself with dignity, even when others try to diminish you. She reached out, taking Dalila's hand gently. Welcome to the family, Princess Dalila. I look forward to teaching you everything I know about surviving royal court with your sanity intact. That's a valuable skill, Iris muttered. Highly recommend learning it. Elena's mouth twitched toward a smile. And you must be Iris, the woman who kept Lysa's daughter safe for 22 years. That's extraordinary loyalty. That's love, Iris corrected simply. You protect what you love, regardless of cost. Indeed, Elena agreed. She turned back to Dalila. Your training begins tomorrow. We'll start with court protocols, kingdom history, and diplomatic fundamentals. You have much to learn, but I believe you'll learn quickly. I'll try not to disappoint, Dalila said. You won't, Elena said with certainty. You're Lisa's daughter. That alone tells me you have everything necessary to be an exceptional queen. After Elena left, Iris let out a long breath. Well, that went better than expected. I'm officially suspicious. Good things don't usually happen this smoothly. Maybe destiny is finally working in our favor, Dalila suggested. Or destiny is lulling us into false security before dropping complications on our heads, Iris countered. Either way, I'm cautiously optimistic while remaining prepared for disaster. That's the spirit, Kieran said with amusement. The next morning, Dalila's servant life and princess training collided in ways that were both amusing and uncomfortable. She woke in her usual servant quarters, dressed in her usual servant clothing, and headed to breakfast in the usual servant dining area. Except now, nobles kept staring at her with undisguised curiosity, because King Aldrich had begun subtle rumors that a distant relative had been discovered and would be joining court soon. This is deeply weird, Mira whispered, appearing at Dalila's elbow with breakfast porridge. The nobles are looking at you like you're suddenly interesting. What happened? Complicated family revelations, Dalila said carefully. I'll explain everything soon, I promise. That's ominous and intriguing, Mira said. I'm choosing to be excited rather than worried. Also, is it true you're having daily lessons with Queen Elena? How did you hear about that? The castle has more gossip channels than functional drainage, Mira said cheerfully. Literally nothing stays secret for longer than 6 hours. So yes, is it true? It's true, Dalila confirmed. She's teaching me court protocols. Court protocols, Mira repeated slowly. Why would a servant need court protocols? Because my life is becoming significantly more complicated than anticipated, Dalila said honestly. Before Mira could press further, Overseer Marlena appeared with her usual aura of disapproval and deeply held grudges. Dalila, you're wanted in the Queen's chambers immediately. Apparently you have important lessons that supersede your actual duties. The Queen requested my presence, Dalila said carefully. I can't refuse. You used to be a reliable worker, Marlena said coldly. Now you're gallivanting with Alpha Kings and Queens, forgetting your proper place. Mark my words, this will end badly for you. Thank you for your concern, Dalila said, trying for diplomatic neutrality. That wasn't concern. That was observation of inevitable consequences, Marlena snapped. Now go. Don't keep royalty waiting. Though what they want with a fire-cursed servant is beyond my comprehension. As Dalila left, she heard Mira whisper loudly, She's absolutely delightful. I can see why everyone enjoys working under her inspirational leadership. Despite everything, Dalila smiled. The Queen's private chambers were elegant without being ostentatious. Comfortable spaces that suggested Elena valued function over display. The Queen sat at a writing desk, surrounded by books about kingdom history and noble lineages. Ah, Dalila, Elena said warmly. Please, sit. We have much to cover today. They spent the morning reviewing noble houses, their histories, their current standing, their various feuds and alliances. Elena explained the complicated web of kingdom relationships with patience and occasional humor. Lord Brennan's family has controlled the Eastern Territories for 6 generations, Elena said. They're wealthy, traditional, and deeply invested in maintaining pure bloodlines. They'll be your most vocal opposition when your heritage is revealed. Because of my red hair, Dalila said. Because they fear change, Elena corrected. Your red hair is just the excuse they'll use. The real fear is that you represent a shift in power dynamics they've controlled for decades. How do I handle them? With dignity, grace, and strategic alliance building, Elena said. You win not by fighting them directly, but by building support from other nobles who see you as the succession solution they need. They continued lessons through midday, breaking only when lunch arrived. As they ate, Elena studied Dalila with an expression that suggested she was working up to something significant. May I ask you something personal? Elena said finally. Of course. The Alpha King, Kieran. He's very protective of you, very invested in your future. That goes beyond mere alliance interest. Dalila felt her cheeks warm. His wolf recognized me as his mate. I thought that might be the case, Elena said with satisfaction. The way he looks at you is quite distinctive, like you're the only person in any room. It's overwhelming, Dalila admitted. I spent 22 years being invisible. Now an Alpha King sees me completely, and I don't know how to process that. By accepting that you're worthy of being seen, Elena said gently. That's what your mother would tell you. Lysa never apologized for existing, never made herself smaller to make others comfortable. She existed fully and expected others to adjust. You have that same quality. You just need to believe in it. That's harder than it sounds, Dalila said. Everything worthwhile is, Elena agreed. But you'll learn. And having a mate who sees your worth will help. That evening, Kieran found Dalila in one of the small courtyards, sitting on a stone bench and staring at stars while processing the day's overwhelming changes. Your Majesty, she said formally when she saw him. Really? Kieran said with amusement, settling beside her. We're back to Your Majesty after everything. I'm practicing royal protocols, Dalila defended. Queen Elena says proper address is important. Queen Elena is right about many things, Kieran said. But between us, when we're alone, you can call me Kieran. We're mates. That supersedes formal protocols. Mates, Dalila repeated, the word still feeling strange and wonderful on her tongue. I'm still processing that reality. Take all the time you need, Kieran said gently. But know that my wolf hasn't changed his mind. If anything, learning about your heritage made the recognition stronger. My wolf chose a hidden queen. That's not a complication. That's destiny working perfectly. You keep saying that word, destiny, because I believe in it, Kieran said simply. I believe some connections transcend logic. Some recognitions go deeper than rational explanation. Some people are meant to find each other exactly when they need to. He took her hand, and Dalila felt warmth spread from the contact. You're not alone anymore, Kieran said. You have King Aldrich supporting your succession, Queen Elena teaching you protocols, Iris loving you fiercely, and you have me, your mate, your partner, your ally in whatever comes next. What does come next? Dalila asked. We prepare you to rule, Kieran said. We build support among nobles who value competence over appearance. We fulfill the prophecy about two flames uniting. And we build something extraordinary together, a future where you're seen completely and loved thoroughly. That sounds like a fairy tale, Dalila whispered. It's better than a fairy tale, Kieran corrected. It's real, complicated and messy and requiring actual work, but real, and I'm here for all of it. He leaned closer, and Dalila's breath caught. His amber eyes held warmth and certainty and complete acceptance. May I express what my heart feels? Kieran asked softly. Instead of answering, Dalila closed the distance between them. The kiss was gentle and perfect and felt like coming home, like recognition and acceptance and destiny finally aligning. When they pulled apart, both breathing slightly faster, Kieran's expression held wonder. My wolf was right, he said. You're absolutely perfect. I'm absolutely complicated, Dalila corrected. Same thing, Kieran said, pulling her close. Perfect and complicated aren't mutually exclusive. They're often the same thing. Under stars, Two flames held each other and believed, maybe for the first time, that destiny might actually work in their favor, that sometimes fairy tales came true, that hidden heirs and fire-blessed kings could build futures worth believing in. Together. Chapter 8. 3 weeks into her princess training, Dalila had learned several important things. Court protocols were unnecessarily complicated, noble gossip traveled faster than wildfire, and Iris's commentary on royal etiquette was the only thing keeping her sane. "So, you're telling me," Iris said from her position in what had become her permanent guest room, recovered, but enjoying the upgraded accommodations too much to return to servant quarters, that there are 17 different types of curtsies depending on who you're greeting, their rank relative to yours, the formality of the occasion, and whether there's a full moon. There are actually only 12 types, Dalila corrected, flopping dramatically onto Iris's comfortable bed. The full moon thing was a joke Queen Elena made that I unfortunately believed for 3 days. "I like her," Iris said. "She has a sense of humor hidden under all that royal dignity." "She's been wonderful," Dalila agreed. "Patient when I mix up noble houses, encouraging when I feel overwhelmed, and surprisingly funny when we're alone." "And the Alpha King continues to be disgustingly devoted?" Iris asked with exaggerated innocence. "Kieran has been supportive," Dalila said, trying for dignity while her cheeks warmed. "Supportive," Iris repeated. "That's certainly one word for how he looks at you. Others might include besotted, completely entranced, or one step away from composing terrible poetry about your eyes." "He doesn't write poetry," Dalila protested. "Not yet," Iris said ominously. "Give him time. All Alpha Kings eventually resort to terrible poetry when sufficiently in love." Before Dalila could respond, Mira burst into the room with the energy of someone who'd discovered revolutionary information. "Lord Brennan is planning something," she announced breathlessly. "I was cleaning near the East Parlor and heard him talking with other nobles about maintaining proper standards and preventing contamination of the throne." The comfortable atmosphere evaporated instantly. "What exactly did he say?" Dalila asked, sitting up. "That rumors of a distant relative being trained as heir are concerning," Mira said. "That the kingdom needs rulers with appropriate heritage and traditional appearance. That he and his allies will oppose any succession that doesn't meet their standards." "He knows," Iris said flatly. "Maybe not the full truth, but enough to be threatened." "We knew there would be opposition," Dalila said, trying for calm despite her racing heart. "King Aldrich warned us about this. Knowing there will be opposition and facing actual organized resistance are different things," Iris pointed out. "One is theoretical. The other involves nobles actively plotting against you. Then we need to build stronger support," Dalila said, sounding more confident than she felt. "Show nobles that I'm a viable succession solution regardless of appearance." "That's very diplomatic and strategic," Iris said. "Your mother would be proud." Also slightly concerned because court schemes are dangerous, but mostly proud. That afternoon, King Aldrich summoned Dalila, Kieran, and Queen Elena to his private study for what he called succession planning discussions. "Lord Brennan and his faction are becoming vocal about succession concerns," Aldrich said without preamble. "They're using coded language about appropriate standards and traditional requirements, but their meaning is clear. They're preparing to oppose Dalila's eventual claim. Because of her red hair," Queen Elena said with clear frustration. "Because they fear losing power," Aldrich corrected. "The red hair is just their justification. The real concern is that Dalila represents change they can't control." "How do we counter that?" Kieran asked. "By accelerating our timeline," Aldrich said. "I was planning to reveal Dalila's heritage gradually over months. But if Brennan's faction is already organizing opposition, we need to move faster. Reveal the truth before they can establish firm resistance." "That's risky," Queen Elena said. "Dalila's only had 3 weeks of training. She's not ready for full court presentation." "She's Lisa's daughter," Aldrich said firmly. "She has the mark, the bloodline, and the intelligence. She'll be ready because she has to be." "When?" Dalila asked quietly. 2 weeks. Aldrich said, "during the autumn festival celebration. We'll use the occasion to reveal your heritage, show your mark, and invoke the old prophecy. Make it a moment of destiny fulfillment rather than throne claiming. That's either brilliant or catastrophically risky, Kieran said. Most brilliant things are catastrophically risky, Aldrich countered. But it's our best option. We control the narrative by revealing the truth ourselves before Brennan's faction can twist it. I'm ready, Dalila said, sounding more certain than she felt. Tell me what I need to do. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of intensive training. Queen Elena drilled Dalila on noble lineages until she could recite family trees in her sleep. King Aldrich taught her kingdom history and succession law with patient thoroughness. Kieran helped her practice public speaking and maintaining composure under pressure. And through it all, Iris provided commentary that was equal parts wisdom and completely inappropriate humor. Remember, Iris said during one particularly stressful evening, if Lord Brennan challenges you publicly, just stare at him until he gets uncomfortable. It works remarkably well. I've been doing it to nobles for 25 years. That's terrible advice, Dalila said. It's excellent advice disguised as terrible advice, Iris corrected. There's a difference. The night before the autumn festival, Dalila couldn't sleep. She paced her new rooms. She'd been quietly moved to guest wing quarters, appropriate for distant relatives, and tried not to panic about revealing herself to the entire court tomorrow. A soft knock interrupted her anxious pacing. She opened the door to find Kieran, looking concerned and understanding. Couldn't sleep? He asked gently. I'm about to tell hundreds of nobles that I'm the hidden heir to the throne, Dalila said. With fire-colored hair that they've been taught their entire lives signals chaos and contamination. Why would I be unable to sleep? Fair point, Kieran said. May I come in? Dalila stepped aside, and Kieran entered, closing the door behind him. He immediately pulled her into his arms, and Dalila let herself rest against his chest, breathing in his pine and leather scent. You're going to be extraordinary tomorrow, Kieran said into her hair. You're going to stand in front of that court and show them exactly who you are. Strong, intelligent, compassionate, worthy. And some will resist because people fear change. But many will see what I see, their rightful queen. What if I fail? Dalila whispered. You won't, Kieran said with absolute certainty. Because you're Lysa's daughter. Because you carry legitimacy in your blood and your mark. Because you have people who believe in you completely. Aldrich, Elena, Iris, me. We're all standing with you. Together, Dalila said, using the word that had become their touchstone. Together, Kieran confirmed. Always. He tilted her chin up and kissed her, gentle and reassuring and full of unwavering support. When they pulled apart, Dalila felt steadier, braver, ready. Get some sleep, Kieran said softly. Tomorrow we change your kingdom's future. The autumn festival dawned clear and beautiful, with golden sunlight turning the castle into something from fairy tales. The great hall had been decorated with harvest colors, deep golds and crimsons and rich browns that made everything feel warm and abundant. Dalila dressed in clothing Queen Elena had commissioned specifically for today, a gown in deep crimson that complemented her copper hair rather than fighting it. The mark on her shoulder blade would be visible when she revealed it. Her hair was arranged simply, flowing loose in copper waves that caught the light like living flame. You look like a queen, Iris said, appearing in the doorway with suspiciously damp eyes. You look exactly like your mother did when she was young and fierce and ready to change the world. I'm terrified, Dalila admitted. Good, Iris said. Terror means you understand the significance. It also means you're brave enough to do it anyway. That's courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. When did you become so wise? Dalila asked with affection. I've always been wise, Iris said. You're just finally in a position to appreciate my brilliance properly. The celebration began with the usual festival formalities, King Aldrich welcoming everyone, nobles mingling and displaying their finest clothes, musicians playing harvest songs. Dalila stood to the side with other distant relatives, watching and waiting for the planned moment. Then King Aldrich stood, and the hall fell silent with anticipation. Today we celebrate abundance and gratitude, Aldrich began. We also celebrate something extraordinary, a gift that answers prayers I've held for years. The nobles leaned forward with interest. 22 years ago, the Northern Kingdom suffered tragedy during the Blood Moon Rebellion. The royal family fell, and I was chosen to rule in their place. I've done my best to honor that responsibility. But I've also carried concern about succession, about what happens when I'm gone, when the kingdom needs clear leadership. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Recently, I learned something that changes everything, Aldrich continued. The night of the rebellion, Queen Lisa gave birth to a fourth heir, a daughter, born in secret and hidden to protect her from those who would have eliminated her. That daughter survived, protected by loyal friends, carrying the royal mark that proves her legitimacy. The murmurs became louder, more urgent. Lord Brennan stood, his expression thunderous. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice carrying clearly. "That's an extraordinary claim. Do you have proof?" "I have better than proof," Aldrich said. "I have the heir herself. Princess Dalila, please come forward." Chapter 9. Dalila's legs felt like water as she stepped forward, but she kept her head high and her shoulders straight the way Queen Elena had taught her. Every eye in the hall followed her movement. Curious, suspicious, shocked, fascinated. "This is the servant girl," Lord Brennan said with clear disdain. "The fire-cursed one with contaminated blood. You expect us to believe she's legitimate royalty? I expect you to see the proof," King Aldrich said calmly. "Princess Dalila, if you would show the court your mark." This was the moment, the point of no return. Dalila turned, and Queen Elena stepped forward to help adjust her gown's neckline, revealing the mark on her left shoulder blade. The crowned wolf wreathed in flames glowed faintly in the afternoon light streaming through tall windows, undeniably authentic, impossible to fake. The hall erupted in shocked whispers. "The royal mark," someone breathed. "It's real." "Fire-colored hair doesn't matter when legitimacy is proved by the mark itself," King Aldrich said firmly. "Princess Dalila carries the blood of Queen Lisa and King Aldrin. She is the rightful heir to the Northern throne." "She's cursed," Lord Brennan protested. "Red hair brings chaos and instability. The old stories warn." "The old stories also prophesy salvation," Kieran interrupted, standing from where he'd been positioned near the throne. He moved to stand beside Dalila, his presence solid and supportive. "The prophecy speaks of two flames meeting when the kingdom needs healing. A hidden heir with fire in her blood, and a blessed king who's misunderstood." He gestured to his own copper-gold hair. "I am first of the fire-blessed line," Kieran continued. "My wolf recognized Princess Dalila as my mate the moment I saw her. Not despite her red hair, but because of what it represents. Strength, passion, the courage to exist fully even when others try to diminish you." "This is manipulation," Lord Brennan snapped, "using prophecy to justify—" "To justify what?" Queen Elena interrupted, standing as well. "Legitimate succession? Clear leadership for the kingdom's future? An end to succession uncertainty that would otherwise tear us apart when King Aldrich passes?" She moved to stand on Dalila's other side, creating a united front. "I knew Queen Lisa," Elena said, her voice carrying clearly. "She was extraordinary, brilliant, compassionate, fierce about protecting her people. I see those same qualities in her daughter. Princess Dalila has spent 3 weeks learning what would take most nobles years to master. She's intelligent, dedicated, and genuinely cares about this kingdom's future. She's a servant pretending to be royalty," Brennan argued, but his voice held less certainty now. "She's royalty who survived as a servant because people like you would have eliminated her otherwise," Iris said loudly from where she stood with other staff. Every head turned toward her in shock. Servants didn't speak during royal announcements. "I'm Iris," she continued, stepping forward with the confidence of someone who'd kept a queen's secret for 22 years and feared nothing. "Head of the castle laundry and the woman Queen Lisa trusted with her daughter's life. I held that baby girl minutes after birth. I've protected her for 22 years from people who would have eliminated legitimate succession to maintain their own power." She stared directly at Lord Brennan. "So when you call her servant pretending to be royalty, You're insulting the sacrifice Queen Lisa made and the courage it took for Dalila to survive in a kingdom that taught her to hate her own appearance. That's not maintaining standards. That's cruelty disguised as tradition. Stunned silence filled the hall. Then, unexpectedly, slow applause began from the back of the room. Other nobles joined gradually, the sound building until it filled the entire space. "Princess Dalila," a younger noble said, standing from her seat. "Lady Catherine of the Western Territories. I would be honored to support your succession. Clear leadership is exactly what this kingdom needs." "Lord Pemberton of the Southern Holdings," another noble added, also standing. "I agree. Legitimate succession backed by the prophecy itself? That's destiny, not chaos." One by one, nobles stood to voice support. Not all of them. Lord Brennan and his closest allies remained firmly seated, their expressions hostile. But enough stood that it was clear. Dalila had support. Real, substantial support that couldn't be dismissed. King Aldrich smiled with satisfaction. Then it settled. Princess Dalila is acknowledged as heir to the Northern Throne. She will continue training and gradually assume royal duties. When the time comes for me to pass the crown, succession will be clear and peaceful. He turned to Dalila, his expression warm. "Welcome home, Princess. Your mother would be so proud." The celebration that followed was overwhelming. Nobles approached to introduce themselves, to pledge support, to assess the hidden princess they'd just discovered. Dalila smiled and responded gracefully, using everything Queen Elena had taught her about diplomatic courtesy and strategic alliance building. Lord Brennan and his faction left early, their departure unmistakably hostile. But the majority stayed, celebrating with genuine enthusiasm. "You did it," Kieran whispered when they had a brief moment alone. "You faced an entire court and showed them exactly who you are." "We did it," Dalila corrected. "I couldn't have done this without you. Without Aldrich and Elena and Iris. Without everyone who believed in me." "That's what family does," Kieran said. "And you have quite a family now. Born family, chosen family, kingdom family. All of them supporting you." "I never thought I'd have this," Dalila admitted. "A year ago, I was invisible. Now I'm standing here as acknowledged princess with a mate who's an Alpha King and a future that doesn't require hiding." "The best futures often come from the most unexpected places," Kieran said. "Though I admit, when my wolf first recognized you in that hall months ago, I didn't anticipate quite this much destiny fulfillment." "Too much destiny?" Dalila teased. "Just enough destiny," Kieran corrected, pulling her closer. "Exactly the right amount for building something extraordinary together." That evening, after the formal celebration ended and nobles filtered away, Dalila found herself in King Aldrich's private study with her chosen family gathered around. "That was terrifying and wonderful," Dalila said, finally allowing herself to collapse into a chair. "Also exhausting. Is being royalty always this emotionally draining?" "Yes," King Aldrich and Queen Elena said simultaneously. "But you were extraordinary," Elena added. "Poised and gracious and perfectly diplomatic. You handled Lord Brennan's hostility with dignity. Iris handled Lord Brennan's hostility with publicly calling him out for cruelty disguised as tradition," Dalila corrected. "That was significantly more effective than my diplomacy." "I have my moments," Iris said from where she'd been given an honorary seat despite her servant status. 22 years of protecting you earned me the right to tell hostile nobles exactly what I think of their nonsense." "You were magnificent," King Aldrich agreed. "As were you, Princess Dalila. Today you proved you're ready for this responsibility." "What happens now?" Dalila asked. "Now you continue training," Aldrich said. "But openly, as acknowledged heir. You'll attend council meetings, learn kingdom administration, make public appearances. You'll gradually transition from hidden princess to visible leader." "And the opposition?" Kieran asked. "Lord Brennan won't simply accept this. Lord Brennan will complain and scheme and make life difficult," Aldrich said calmly. "But he lost today. The majority of nobles supported Dalila's legitimacy. He can't change that without evidence of actual wrongdoing, which doesn't exist." "So we won," Dalila said. the reality finally sinking in. You won, Elena corrected gently. You stood in front of hundreds of people who'd been taught to judge based on appearance, and you showed them that legitimacy goes deeper than hair color. That's not just winning, that's transformation. Later that night, Dalila and Kieran walked through the castle gardens under moonlight. The autumn air was cool and crisp, smelling of late-blooming roses and approaching winter. Your wolf was right, Dalila said, breaking their comfortable silence. About recognizing me as mate. About this being destiny. My wolf is always right, Kieran said with mock arrogance. It's one of his more annoying qualities. Dalila laughed. What happens now? Between us, I mean. I'm acknowledged princess. You're Alpha King of another territory. How does that work practically? However we want it to work, Kieran said simply. I can split time between territories, maintain leadership in the south while supporting you here in the north. Eventually, when you take the throne, we'll unite the kingdoms through our bond, fulfill the prophecy about healing divided lands. That sounds complicated, Dalila said. Everything worthwhile is complicated, Kieran said. But we'll figure it out together. That's what mates do. Face complications as partners rather than struggling alone. He stopped walking, turning to face her directly. Princess Dalila, rightful heir to the Northern Kingdom, extraordinary woman, my chosen mate. Will you let me court you properly? Let me prove my wolf's recognition was absolutely correct? Let me build a future with you that honors both our kingdoms and both our hearts? That's very formal, Dalila said, her heart racing. You're a princess now, Kieran said with a smile. I thought formality was appropriate. I prefer honesty, Dalila said. Then honestly, I love you, Kieran said simply. I loved you when you were invisible. I loved you when you revealed your secrets. I love you now as acknowledged heir. And I'll love you when you're queen. My wolf chose perfectly. Tears pricked Dalila's eyes. Happy tears this time. Overwhelming gratitude for this man who saw her completely and loved her thoroughly. I love you too, she whispered. I didn't think I was allowed to love anyone, but you taught me that being seen is better than staying hidden, that being chosen is better than being invisible. Always, Kieran said, pulling her close. You're always seen. Always chosen, always loved. They embraced under moonlight, two flames meeting exactly when destiny intended, fulfilling prophecies written before either of them was born. And somewhere in the memory of old stories, Queen Lisa smiled. Her daughter was home. Her daughter was loved. Her daughter would rule with the strength and compassion she'd always known was there. The hidden heir had risen, and the kingdom would be better for it. Chapter 10. The morning of Dalila's official coronation as crown princess and her wedding to Kieran dawned with the kind of perfect weather that made Iris declare destiny was showing off unnecessarily. It's like the universe looked at your day and said, "Let me make this aggressively beautiful," Iris said, helping Dalila into a gown that combined Northern and Southern Kingdom traditions, crimson silk that honored her fire-colored hair, embroidered with silver wolves that represented both kingdoms. Honestly, it's almost embarrassing how perfect everything is. Where's the dramatic rain? The ominous clouds? The sense of impending doom? You're disappointed the weather is nice? Dalila asked, laughing despite her nerves. I'm suspicious when things go smoothly, Iris corrected. 22 years of protecting royal secrets taught me to expect complications. Speaking of which, she adjusted Dalila's copper curls one final time. You're about to be crowned, married, and officially announced as future queen in front of the entire kingdom. How are you not having a complete crisis? I am having a crisis, Dalila admitted. I'm just having it very quietly and internally while looking calm externally. That's growth, Iris said approvingly. Very royal of you. A knock interrupted them. Mira burst in, looking breathless and excited. The Great Hall is packed, she announced. Every noble in the kingdom showed up. Even Lord Brennan, though he looks like he's attending a funeral instead of a celebration. Lord Brennan can sit in his misery and contemplate his poor life choices, Iris said cheerfully. It's good for character development. Has there been any trouble from his faction? Dalila asked, concerned. None, Mira said. Apparently, Queen Elena had a very strategic conversation with several of Brennan's allies about how supporting the legitimate heir was significantly better for their future prospects than opposing her. Rumor says she was terrifyingly diplomatic about it. That's Elena, Iris said with satisfaction. She fights with grace and strategy instead of swords. Much more effective. The Great Hall had been transformed into something from ancient legends, northern ice blue mixed with southern crimson and gold, creating a space that honored both kingdoms equally. Hundreds of nobles filled every available space, their expressions ranging from genuine excitement to carefully neutral acceptance to Lord Brennan's visible discomfort. Dalila entered on King Aldrich's arm, her heart pounding but her head high. The crowd fell silent as they processed toward the throne where Kieran waited, looking magnificent in formal attire that combined both kingdoms' styles, dark leather and crimson silk, his copper-gold hair catching afternoon light like living flame. His expression when he saw her made every difficult moment of the past months worth it. Pure love and wonder and complete certainty that she was exactly who he wanted. You're beautiful, he whispered when she reached him. You're biased, Dalila whispered back. Factually accurate, Kieran corrected with a smile. King Aldrich stepped forward, his voice carrying across the hall with authority and warmth. Today we witness something extraordinary, he began. We formalize what destiny began, the return of Queen Lysa's daughter, the fulfillment of ancient prophecy, and the union of two kingdoms through love and legitimate succession. He turned to Dalila, holding the crown princess circlet. Silver wolves wreathed in flames, representing both her heritage and her future. Princess Dalila of the Northern Kingdom, daughter of Queen Lysa and King Aldrin, bearer of the royal mark, do you accept the responsibility of Crown Princess? Do you pledge to serve this kingdom with wisdom, compassion, and strength? Do you promise to honor both tradition and necessary change, to see all people regardless of appearance or station, to rule with the courage your mother showed and the vision your future requires? I do, Dalila said clearly, her voice steady. I pledge myself to this kingdom and its people, all its people. I promise to rule with compassion that doesn't ignore justice, with strength that doesn't become cruelty, with tradition that makes space for growth. I am my mother's daughter, and I will honor her memory by being the queen she believed I could become. Aldrich placed the circlet on her copper curls, and the crowd erupted in applause, genuine, enthusiastic, accepting. Even some of Brennan's faction joined, recognizing the tide had turned completely. Crown Princess Dalila, Aldrich announced, his voice thick with emotion. Your mother would be so proud. Then Queen Elena stepped forward for the wedding ceremony, her expression warm with affection. Now we witness an equally significant moment, Elena said. The union of Crown Princess Dalila and Alpha King Kieran, two flames meeting exactly as prophecy foretold, healing what was broken and building something new. She turned to them both. This marriage represents more than personal love, though that love is clearly profound. It represents the union of Northern order and Southern instinct, of tradition and innovation, of two kingdoms who will become stronger together than they ever were apart. The ceremony that followed was beautiful and surprisingly personal. Instead of elaborate formal vows, Kieran and Dalila had written their own, simple promises that spoke to who they really were. I promise to see you completely, Kieran said, holding both her hands. To never let you hide when being seen is better. To love your fire-colored hair and your hidden strength and your fierce heart. To stand with you through complications and destiny and everything between. You're my mate, my partner, my choice, always. I promise to trust being seen, Dalila said, tears streaming down her face. To believe I'm worthy of being chosen. To love you with the same certainty your wolf showed, without question, without reservation, without fear. You taught me that being loved is better than being invisible, that being chosen is better than being safe. You're my mate. my partner, my future, always. Then by the power vested in me as Queen of the Northern Kingdom, Elena said, smiling widely, and in accordance with Southern Territory traditions, I declare you married, mated, and absolutely perfect for each other. You may kiss. They did, thoroughly and enthusiastically, to the crowd's delighted applause and Iris's loud declaration of, finally. The celebration that followed was unlike anything the Northern Kingdom had seen. Southern Territory joy mixed with Northern formal elegance, creating something entirely new. Servants danced alongside nobles, traditional protocols mixed with spontaneous laughter. Fire-blessed crimson mixed with ice kingdom blue. This is wonderful, King Aldrich said, watching nobles who'd spent years maintaining rigid social boundaries now laughing with staff and southern wolves. This is what Lisa wanted, a kingdom where people mattered more than appearance, where strength came from unity rather than division. Dalila's doing that, Elena said with satisfaction. She's transforming the kingdom just by existing fully and refusing to hide. That's more powerful than any sword or declaration. Across the hall, Dalila stood with her chosen family, Iris, Mira, Kieran, and even Queen Elena and King Aldrich, who'd become more than allies and become genuine family. Speech, someone called. Then others joined until the entire hall was chanting for Crown Princess Dalila to speak. Kieran squeezed her hand encouragingly. Dalila stepped forward, and the hall fell silent. A year ago, she began, her voice carrying clearly, I stood in this hall as a servant everyone called fire-cursed. I was told my red hair meant chaos and contamination, that I should stay invisible, that I would never belong. She paused, looking around at hundreds of faces watching with genuine interest. But I learned something important. Being different isn't wrong. Being marked by fire isn't curse. And belonging isn't about looking identical to everyone else. It's about being seen for who you really are and choosing to exist fully despite people who'd prefer you stay hidden. She gestured to Kieran. This man's wolf recognized me when I was invisible, saw worth when everyone else saw curse, chose me not despite my fire-colored hair but because of what it represented. Courage, passion, refusal to break under judgment. Then to Iris. This woman protected me for 22 years, loved me fiercely when love meant danger, taught me that family isn't just blood, it's choice and sacrifice and showing up every day despite fear. To King Aldrich and Queen Elena, these rulers welcomed me when they could have eliminated a threat, chose healing over fear, showed that true leadership means solving problems rather than maintaining comfortable lies. She looked at Lord Brennan, who'd remained seated throughout, his expression hostile. Some of you still see chaos when you look at me, Dalila said directly. Still believe red hair means contamination. Still think I don't belong on this throne. The hall tensed. And that's okay, Dalila continued, her voice gentle but firm. Because I'm not here to make everyone love me. I'm here to serve this kingdom, all of it, including people who question my legitimacy. I'm here to prove through action that fire-blessed can also mean fire-strong. That prophecy isn't manipulation. It's truth we finally have courage to acknowledge. She spread her arms, encompassing the entire transformed hall. This is our future, Northern and Southern united. Tradition and innovation combined. People valued for character rather than appearance. And yes, a queen with fire-colored hair who refuses to apologize for existing. The applause was deafening. Even Lord Brennan stood, not applauding, but standing, acknowledging, accepting that he'd lost and Dalila had won not through force but through being undeniably, completely right. Later, as the celebration continued and moon rose over the castle, Kieran found Dalila on a balcony overlooking the kingdom that was now truly hers. Tired? He asked, wrapping arms around her from behind. Exhausted, Dalila admitted. Also deliriously happy. Also still processing that I'm crown princess and married and apparently gave a speech that made Lord Brennan stand respectfully. You're extraordinary, Kieran said simply. My wolf knew the moment he saw you. Your wolf has excellent taste, Dalila said. The absolute best, Kieran agreed. They stood together under stars, two flames united exactly as prophecy had foretold, building a future where being different meant being blessed, where fire-colored hair crowned queens, where love transcended species and kingdoms, and every rule that said it shouldn't exist. Ready for tomorrow? Kieran asked. Ready for everything, Dalila said. And she was. Epilogue. 10 years later, Crown Princess Dalila stood in the same great hall where she'd once served as an invisible servant, watching her twin daughters, both with glorious copper-red hair, chase each other around with the energy of young wolves who'd inherited both kingdoms' strongest traits. They're going to destroy something expensive, Iris observed from her comfortable chair. She was older now, grayer, but her commentary remained sharp and inappropriately hilarious. I'm not saying which something, but definitely something important, and probably irreplaceable. They're exploring their environment, Queen Elena said diplomatically, though her expression suggested she agreed with Iris's assessment. They're being feral, Mira corrected, having transitioned from servant to Dalila's official personal advisor and best friend. Adorable, but definitely feral. Kieran appeared, scooping up both daughters with practiced ease despite their protests. Your mother has a council meeting, he told them, which means we're going to the Southern Territories for the afternoon where you can be feral without destroying northern antiques. I resent the implication that our daughters are destructive, Dalila said. One daughter immediately began chewing on Kieran's formal collar. The other tried to climb his head like a particularly challenging mountain. I retract my objection, Dalila said. King Aldrich entered, older but still sharp, having passed daily ruling to Dalila while remaining advisor and beloved grandfather figure. The Northern and Southern Territories report record prosperity, he announced. Trade flourishes. People move freely between kingdoms. And apparently 3 more noble families just petitioned to send their red-haired offspring to the palace for training because fire-colored hair is now considered blessed and desirable rather than cursed. That's my favorite change, Iris said with satisfaction, watching the same nobles who called Dalila fire-cursed now desperately wanting red-haired grandchildren. The irony is delicious. Change takes time, Dalila said diplomatically. Change takes force of will and someone brave enough to exist fully, Elena corrected. Which you provided. The kingdom transformed because you refused to stay hidden. Later, after meetings concluded and daughters were finally asleep, Dalila and Kieran walked through gardens that now grew both northern ice roses and southern fire blooms side by side. Happy? Kieran asked. Deliriously, Dalila said. Though 10 years ago, if someone had told me I'd go from invisible servant to crown princess with an Alpha King mate and twin daughters who terrify furniture, I would have thought they were delusional. Destiny has excellent timing, Kieran said. Terrible, but excellent. My mother would have loved this, Dalila said quietly. Seeing her daughter rule, seeing fire-colored hair celebrated instead of condemned, seeing the kingdom healed. She does see it, Kieran said, pulling her close. Somewhere, Queen Lisa is smiling and probably saying, I told you so to anyone who doubted prophecy. And somewhere in memory and starlight and the space where destiny lived, Queen Lisa did exactly that. Her daughter, once hidden, now gloriously visible, ruled with strength and compassion. Her grandchildren carried fire in their blood and joy in their hearts. And the kingdom she'd sacrificed everything to protect had finally learned that being different wasn't curse. It was the greatest blessing of all. The end. Also slightly terrified about the inevitable kingdom complications, but mostly delighted. Maggie Reed.